What's up, everybody? It's Robert. How aware of your experience are you right now? You're probably sitting somewhere watching this, and there's a lot of things going on in your mind, in your body, all at the same time. So the question is, how do we make sense of this? And I'm sure earlier today you were doing something else. Later today you'll be doing something else. But this process will still be going on. So what is this process? Let's make some sense of it. If we want to understand what's going on with our experience, we have to look at the brain, because the brain is a big part of it. And you may have never asked yourself this, or maybe you have, but why don't we ask ourselves, where did the brain come from? Where did it come from? Did one day everybody on the planet just have brains? No, it took a long time, very long time. So let's make a long story short and chunk it into 3 stages of development. So first, our ancestors started off with this very, very small structure that performed the bare minimum, the basics of keeping the machine running, which means regulating your heart rate, regulating your breathing, body temperature, those very simple things. Those, um, those activities are regulated by the area back here at the bottom called the brain stem, or the reptile brain, which is depicted here with a spinal cord attached to it. So that's what we started with. Then after millions and millions of years, then what developed? This second layer, which we could call the emotional brain. Sometimes it's also called the limbic system. And if you want to look into it in more depth, there are a lot of interesting structures there that are involved with fear, anxiety, anger. Um, Quick aside, this one guy, he had a tumor uh, in that area of the brain, and he ended up having really, really dangerous fits of anger. And nobody could figure it out until the autopsy revealed a big tumor pressing on his amygdala. Anyways, back to the story. After even more years of evolution, we got this final outer layer called the cerebral cortex, which is capable of the most advanced abilities that we have, which means speech, maybe math, planning ahead, all of those things. And let's go along with the pattern of the brain damage. If you have damage to the 2 speech areas, Broca's area or Wernicke's area, that damage will impair your ability to produce or understand speech. So it's very clear how the brain is involved in our experience. But what we probably don't think about is how all 3 layers are constantly involved in every moment of life. So for example, let's say you bought a car today, you drove it home, and then you saw that at another dealership they had a lower price for it. So now you've been angry, you're regretting that you bought it at the first place. So what's going on there? First, you're having this very abstract thought, which is in the outer layer, which is, I could have bought it somewhere else. Like, think about that. Is any other species on the planet capable of such a thought? I could have done it this way. Pretty advanced. Then you've got this emotional reaction to it, anger, and then there's a physiological response, like muscles tighten, and veins might constrict, adrenaline released, something like that. And I'm not saying it happens in that order. It can go either way. Well, let's take another example. So let's say you are about to go on stage and do a public speaking event, and you start to get nervous. Adrenaline is being released. So the physiological response, you have an emotional response of fear. Oh, am I going to be accepted or not in front of this group? It's a very relevant emotion to have in our evolutionary past. Am I going to be a part of the group or not? Because if If you're not, your survival is going to go down the drain. And then at the same time, you have this outer layer projecting 5 minutes from now when I'm on the stage in front of the people, right? That's not even in the present moment. Like, imagine an alligator. If an alligator was in the front row about to go on stage, would you think, okay, in 5 minutes I'm going to be in front of there and looking out? And it's a projection. It's a simulation that is possible only. This simulation made possible by your outer layer. So that also brings another point, which is that there's a few different areas you can place your attention on. You can place your attention on the future, right? I'm about to go on stage. You can place your attention on the past. I bought the car and now I don't want it anymore. Or the present. Okay? And hold on to that thought. I'm going to come back to it, but it's very important. First, though, I want to talk about school. All right? We've all gone to school for many years, presumably. So what layer of the brain do you think school focuses on the most? I'll give you a hint. This one. And why is that? Well, I don't know. Maybe that's how we produce very, very advanced humans. I don't know. But reading and writing, math, all these complex skills that nobody else on the planet other than human beings are doing. That's what we focus on. So we build up this layer. But I've been wondering lately, is that to the neglect of the other two layers? I mean, did your teacher, growing up, did your teachers ever really coach you on your emotional management? Maybe a little bit. Did you ever think about how to relax yourself when you're nervous? Or how to rev yourself up when you're depressed and you're sitting in bed all day? I don't think that was really covered a lot in formal education. And then there's also the reptile brain, regulating your breathing. Why did we not do that throughout education as much? I mean, we did in PE class, I guess, kind of paid attention to the bodies, the muscular tension and whatnot when we did phys ed, but in large part we focused on the outer layer. Now what does this produce? It produces a society full of people who are very much in the outer layer, in these conceptual, abstract things in your head, I guess you could say, and not really in their bodies. And what does that lead to? It leads to current movements like the meditation movement, where you sit in front of a guru who tells you to focus on your breathing. Take a deep breath, right? Why is that? Reptile brain regulates your breathing. So now we need to rebalance, okay? But there's another problem that comes out of this, which is that it's best demonstrated through an example. So let's take the meaning of life. Some people could go around saying, there's no meaning in life. Life is meaningless. Life is pointless, this and that. And you can come up with these very complex terms for it. Existential anguish, right? So now we have this like 6-syllable term for a concept that obviously we developed in the outer brain. And so we think of this as an intellectual problem, right? We think meaning of life, we need to figure out the meaning of life. It becomes this very complicated sounding thing. But I've thought a lot about this issue, and I think that people who say that life is meaningless, or I should say, when you're feeling like life is meaningless, you probably are not doing fun and interesting things in your life. That's just what I've seen. So what really is a rather basic problem of emotions, just a lack of emotional stimulation and fun and social activity, A simple emotional problem gets dressed up in fancy language by the outer cortex and is called the meaning of life. That's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is that pay attention to the sentence, right? If you say life is meaningless, that appears to be a statement describing the world, right? Something, a fact about the world, that out there, not in here, but out there, life is meaningless, right? And that's very dangerous, because if it's true that the root of the problem is that you're not doing fun things in life and enjoying it and liking yourself and all of this, then what's going on is you are mistaking an internal problem for an external problem. You think that it's on the outside when really it's a problem on the inside. All right. So, where does that bring us? That brings us back to here, to this point of, you're probably starting to see, like, you can direct your attention to different things, right? You can direct your attention outwards as an external problem or inwards, right? You can also direct your attention towards future, present, past. You can pay attention to each of these, right? And here's the final point that I want to make. I realized recently that when we talk about attention, we use the term paying attention. But why do we say paying attention? Is attention like money? It actually is, I think, because, get this, you only have so much attention that you can pay to people. But then also, there's a return on that investment, right? So let's say you pay attention to your past, and you live in your past. Oh yeah, in high school this or that, or I used to be this, used to be that, or in grade school I got bullied, this and that, and you live in the past. What's the return on that investment of attention? Nothing. Also, you can't control it. What about future? Can you control the future? You can control it insofar as you control your decisions in the present, but you can't really control the future. And if you invest attention there, that can help, but it's not the same as investing your attention on the task at hand and on doing something right now. So, in the present, there are things you can control and things you can't. One thing I hear a lot in my line of work with people who are frustrated with life is they talk about what other people are doing that bothers them. Can you control what other people are doing? No. So is that a good investment of your attention? Not really. But what is a good investment? It's what can I do right now? What's the most productive thing I can do right now? What's the next step I need to take? That, if you invest your attention there, there will be a very high return on investment. So that's what I got for today. This is Robert Nelson, and remember, put your existence first.